What I would suggest is that
Right.
you make a copy of these and hand them out to all the new ones, because I don't know how to say it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Sure. Speak into your microphones. You should be getting this mic here. You don't want the Realtek mic. You want
So
the
what I will ask you.
Black Magic, yes.
Very touching note, step on the speed.
Didn't
If
get it
you want to
yet.
send that to him, and if he wants to read it over, if he doesn't, I will read it.
Okay, perfect. If you can hold this one, I'll email
Okay.
it to him since he's not here.
Yeah, just ask him, it's totally up to
Yep.
him, but I think since Dan was
Yep.
his.
Yep, I can do that.
You still want to have Black Magic mic.
She goes by Diana,
Okay.
not Diane. So on the real one, we'll change it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Come on. Do me a favor, can you let in the IT board tip?
I haven't even started it right now, but I can start it. Give me just like 2 more minutes. I'm trying to make sure I have everything done on the phone real quick. Yeah, when we have these are wonderful.
Yeah, I think everybody should get one. And so what I did, and I don't know if the new people will do it, I took my, my calendar, is the color-coded one, and I laminated it.
Yeah.
and,
That's your camera.
It
Yeah.
helped last
I
a
don't want
lot
that.
longer than the paper one.
Yeah.
So I think you could probably get, on those, you could probably do 6.
Pull down,
yeah,
select
definitely,
that.
yeah.
But just
Yeah,
trying
go
to
down,
think
pull
forward.
down, go down to that Black Magic,
People
Black
coming
Magic
in.
design.
um,
There you go.
Even a
Oh,
motion,
okay.
you know,
Like
to make a
that.
motion.
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
Uh,
No, I saw
Just
one,
like
when we redid
Like the video
the,
as well.
Governance now. Yeah.
I was like, I
I'll leave it to you to
did
figure
something
it out.
else, and I saw a little cheat sheet like that, and I was like,
Yeah, I don't-
Yeah.
and I saved it so that I could do it for the new board members, because I thought about that.
Yeah. And then the break thing is kind of
Feel it.
Yeah, because then
I asked
Nice work.
for it, hey, how's it working?
Right.
Almost always.
So to me, that was a no, not
Good video.
Right, but it's nice to have, because sometimes,
Well, especially
Yeah,
if
we
you're just
had
new and
chimed in.
you get
and
nervous.
What's this
I
camera?
go, I go,
There you go.
Margie, Lisa like 3 times last week.
oh,
So,
Well, I met a lot of new ones right out.
don't do that lot, I don't want to follow the
Have their
rules, but
face
take
mask
it for
on.
me.
So it's just-
Well, that's kind of a jump.
Yeah,
okay, the Zoom is up.
so I should be quiet.
I don't believe it has sound right
Yeah, I wouldn't take that to the bank.
now. Well, that's why I said I
Oh,
don't believe.
His career is on your, I don't think.
Yeah.
I said it very carefully so that I don't believe, not know.
where it's the last whereas, and if I talk, I'm going to cut out the word and.
Okay. I emailed him, John, and he has not replied.
Okay, we have time for.
Where's everybody?
Is there a microphone?
5 or 6 more
They're-
meetings.
These are mics. Camera, using the camera
Camera.
mics.
This is it?
Test,
I
test.
Everybody.
30th,
My last.
Test.
31st.
Can you hear that coming out?
Well, you won't hear it here.
Isn't that crazy?
You don't hear
New Year's Eve?
the mic
I
here
should
on
hear
that
that.
system.
Oh,
What you're
yeah.
hearing on that system is the audio coming in from outside.
Oh, okay, so you're not actually hearing it from that.
No, I mean, when you tested it, you saw the thing.
Uh-huh.
Which these mics don't replay in this
I
room,
might even
Oh,
start it.
okay.
I can't promise you I'm not right now.
which you'd get a huge echo if you
That makes it a
did,
little
because
bit more fun.
they're seconds behind, so. So you might call Susie and ask her if everything's okay.
Yeah, I can do that.
That's what usually happens.
No, that's right. Morning.
Good morning.
Hello? Yeah, real quick.
They're unmuted now, but we normally leave them muted until we start. Yeah, they're usually, they're good to go, so.
You shouldn't need to have it all in there. So if you have it all in there, you might be able to delete some of those other programs.
Let's have you in front of me, right?
Yeah, it could be, but yeah, I mean, that's basically, you don't need those, you should be able to take them off if
How are
you
you?
need more space on your
Good.
computer.
Well, I'm gonna signal you if you're behind me.
That's why I'm getting ready to go into a board meeting right now, it's kind of
Gotta
quick,
make
so
them.
I'll be
No,
tied up here for a little
I'm sure
while.
not
Give me a call back if you need.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes,
Bye.
true. And then I need the first chair. I have 2 chairs. If you can do that.
The semi's coming.
Okay.
Are we all good to go, guys? Everything's good?
I hope so.
I think so.
Supervisor Brown, Supervisor Finley with us?
Let me double check. We have, there's Finley.
John.
It's John?
I do not see Supervisor Brown.
Has Judy texted you? It's 10 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and begin. You ready?
You're unmuted.
Good morning and welcome to the special meeting for this December 28th, 2020. Supervisor Groves, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I'd love to. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning and welcome. And before we get started, we want to welcome all those joining on Zoom and listening and watching in. And I'm just going to check and see if county council is with us. And we have Supervisor Finn. Oh, thank you. Good morning, Margaret. Thank you. And Supervisor Finley, I know you're there, and Supervisor Brown. Okay, so we're not seeing Supervisor Brown, is just doing a quick roll call. So Board of Supervisors, item 1.1, adopt a proclamation of appreciation recognizing Diana Stewart for her service as District 3 Planning Commissioner. No fiscal impact. And I see you joining us. Thank you, Diana. Yes, she's here. So, whereas the Board of Supervisors appointed Diana Stewart to the Planning Commission to represent District 3 commencing on February 4th, 2013, and Diana chaired the Planning Commission for calendar year 2016. And whereas Commissioner Stewart was the only woman to serve on the Planning Commission in the last 20 years, and whereas Commissioner Stewart's ability to lead and navigate during some of Trinity County's most turbulent cannabis meetings brought stability and equity, and whereas Commissioner Stewart has always been thoughtful and considerate of the entire community, and whereas Commissioner Stewart spoke her mind but always listened to input on current issues. She was an independent acting commissioner, voting on projects based on their merits of the proposal, and whereas Commissioner Stewart was a pleasure to work with and was liked by the community and respected by staff, and whereas there was never a need to mansplain to Commissioner Stewart, and whereas Commissioner Stewart served her community as a member of the Planning Commission for 8 years. She has been a contributor through her work on the Rotary Club, her volunteer work, her artistry can be seen through her quilts, and if you're fortunate enough, you have enjoyed her delightful desserts, perhaps at a fundraiser. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Board of Supervisors of the County of Trinity does recognize Diana Stewart for her 8 years of service as Planning Commissioner for District 3. Be it further proclaimed that the Board and staff wish Diana nothing but happiness in her future. Duly passed and adopted this 28th day of December 2020 by the Board of Supervisors of the County of Trinity. I'll make the motion.
I'll second. We'll have to arm myself.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I'll second them. Motion by Supervisor Chadwick, second by Supervisor Morris. Supervisor Morris, how do you vote?
Yes, sorry.
Thank you. Supervisor Chadwick.
Aye.
Supervisor Groves.
Aye.
Supervisor Finley.
Aye.
Supervisor Brown.
He's having technical difficulties. He'll get on as soon as he can.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm going to invite, if there's anybody that wants to chime in on this. Diana, I understand that you've been asked to serve under a third supervisor. You're muted. Can undo your mute. Undo your mute. Diana, we can't hear you.
It's you.
Oh, okay.
I didn't mute it.
Okay, thank you.
Muted it. But yes, I have. Supervisor-elect Gogan has requested that I stay on until he is able to find a replacement, and I'm happy to do that.
Well, once again, you have stepped up to the plate for your community, and with many, many thanks, Diana. I really appreciated all your work, and you have definitely navigated through some of the most turbulent times, so thank you, and I appreciate it.
It has been interesting, and thank you so much for the proclamation. It means very much to me, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana.
Thanks to the entire board.
You're more than welcome.
Thank you, Diana.
I'm just going to see if there's anybody online. I know it's difficult to speak. I want you to know, Diana, that both Director Hunter and Rick Tippett contributed to your proclamation. I had requested some information and immediately they got right back. So it was, they participated in your proclamation. So I appreciate that very much. Is there anyone on the line that wished to speak to Commissioner Stewart? It's just very difficult with these COVID times. I know there was people that did want to speak, Diana, and they're not speaking up. So I'm going to move on to item 1.2. Go ahead. Somebody.
Oh, good morning. This is John Brower from Junction City. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good morning. I also would love to thank Diana Stewart. She's contributed hugely to the benefit of the county through these tumultuous years, as you described so well. And boy, I've really learned a lot from her and just have tremendous respect for her as a very fair decision maker. And she does do a great job of reading and researching before making her decisions. And she's really been a mentor to me as a planning commissioner, former planning commissioner, and I would also like to say thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brower. Before I move on, has Supervisor Finley responded?
He does not.
Supervisor Finley, I know it'd be awkward, but would you like to read Commissioner Frazier's proclamation, or would you like me to go ahead and do it?
I would prefer that you go ahead and do it. You put it together for me, so thank you very much for that. So go for it, Bobby.
Okay, well, thank you. Item 1.2, adopt a proclamation of appreciation recognizing Michael Dan Frazier for his service as District 5 Planning Commissioner, no fiscal impact. A proclamation of the Board of Supervisors. Whereas the Board of Supervisors appointed Michael Dan Frazier to the Planning Commission to represent District 5 commencing on February 4th, 2013, and Dan chaired the Planning Commission in calendar year 2015 and 2020, and whereas Commissioner Frazier would brave the drive from Hentonshaw Valley even in the winter months to attend Planning Commission meetings, and whereas Commissioner Frazier was always prepared and ready to discuss the items being presented to the Planning Commission, and whereas Commissioner Frazier had a particular eye for detail, and whereas Commissioner Frazier's practical approach and consistency in decision-making was greatly appreciated by staff, and whereas Commissioner Frazier was a pleasure to work with, and whereas Commissioner Frazier possessed the ability to separate his personal views from the collective desires of the community. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Board of Supervisors of the County of Trinity does hereby recognize Dan Frazier for his 8 years of service as Planning Commissioner of District 5. Be it furthermore proclaimed that the Board and staff wish Dan nothing but happiness and success in his future as a member of the Board of Supervisors representing District 5, duly passed and adopted this 28th day of December 2020 by the Board of Supervisors of the County of Trinity.
Finley so moves.
I'll second.
Sorry. Motion by Supervisor Finley, second by Supervisor Groves. Supervisor Groves, how do you vote?
Aye.
Supervisor Finley?
Aye.
Supervisor Morris?
Yes.
Supervisor Chadwick?
Aye.
Thank you.
John, Supervisor Finley,
Yes.
would you like to speak to Dan? I don't know if he's on or not.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you for supervisor and becoming supervisor-elect. And for, too bad I didn't, thanks for letting me twist your arm and doing this 8 years ago. That's about it.
Congratulations, Supervisor-elect and Commissioner Frazier, for your contribution to our community. And we thank you for your service in the past, and we look forward to seeing what you do on the board. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak?
I would, if that's all right. It's
Yes,
Diana
please.
Stewart.
Yes,
I would
please.
just like to say that it's been a privilege being on the commission with Dan. We did not always see eye to eye, but we were always respectful to each other, and I consider him a friend, and I am very happy for him becoming a supervisor. I think he'll do very well, and he has been an excellent commissioner and always done his best for the county. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stewart.
I'm not gonna make some noise real quick, so Jeremy can't call in, so we did the bridge for him. So
Okay, those on Zoom, we're going to patch in Supervisor Brown. Please bear with us here.
Welcome to the conference center. Please enter your access code. Thank you. Please stand by. If you are the chairperson, press the star key now. Please enter your chairperson passcode, then press pound. To start your conference, press 1. You will now be placed into conference. For a menu of conference commands, press star at any time.
All right, so good enough to let Jeremy know he's calling. That was it. Supervisor Brown, was that you?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
You can, I'll turn it up. All right, we have Supervisor Brown.
Supervisor Brown, so we have the full board is now joined. So we're moving on to county matters, and just to remind the public that on special board meetings, we do not have a public comment at the beginning, but there will be public comment after each individual item is discussed with the board prior to the board bringing it back for a vote. So at that time, you can speak to the matter that is being discussed. County matters. These items include non-routine or controversial matters and are listed alphabetically by department. A member of the board or staff may request that an item be heard out of order. Is there any reason to pull these out of order today? No, not seeing any. We will leave them in order. County Administrative Office, item 2.1, waive the reading of and enact an ordinance amending Trinity County Code section 1.08.090 regarding compensation for members of the Board of Supervisors. No fiscal impact until 2023. Dr. Coons?
Yeah, this is just the first or second reading?
Second.
Second reading, I'm sorry, of the ordinance that was passed on the 28th, I believe.
21st?
I'm sorry, today's the 20th, yes, 21st. Oh, thank you.
Are there any questions from the board? Not hearing any over the Zoom or phone, I will now open it up to the public. Is there any comment from the public on this item? Not hearing any, bring it back to the board. I need to approve.
I'll second. I'm sorry.
Motion by Supervisor Morris, second by Supervisor Groves. Supervisor Groves, how do you vote?
Aye.
Supervisor Morris?
Yes.
Supervisor Finley?
Aye.
Supervisor Brown?
Aye.
Supervisor Chadwick? Thank you.
Planning and zoning, item 2.2, waive the reading of and enact an ordinance repealing and amending various sections of Title 17 of the Trinity County Code relating to commercial cannabis and implementing the mitigation measures for the county's commercial cannabis program. Unknown fiscal impact. Good morning and welcome, Director Hunter.
Good morning. Item before you today is the second reading of the county's commercial cannabis program, the amended ordinance. The proposed ordinance was presented to the Board of Supervisors on December 21st, 2020. After review and discussion, the board unanimously moved to adopt the ordinance with recommended changes to the proposed language, which are reflected in the ordinance, attached ordinance to the staff report being presented today. The certification of the final EIR on December 21st, 2020 allows for the county to proceed to the approval and implementation of the project. In this case, the project is the cannabis program itself. Therefore, following the certification of the final EIR, the repeal of the existing ordinance, and then the adoption of the new ordinance with the mitigation measures incorporated is necessary. The inclusion of the mitigation measures detailed in the EIR with the ordinance itself is required to comply with CEQA. The current cannabis program is codified as Chapter 43 of Title 17 of the zoning ordinance, Trinity County Municipal Code section regulating zoning. The chapter is broken down into the following manner. Chapter 17.43, Commercial Cannabis Cultivation Regulations. Chapter 17.43A, Wholesale Cannabis Nurseries and Resale of Auxiliary Nursery Products. Chapter 17.43B, Distribution Regulations for Commercial Cannabis. Chapter 17.43C, Cannabis Testing Facilities and Regulations. Chapter 17.43D, Cannabis Non-Storefront Retail. Chapter 17.43E, Cannabis Microbusinesses. And Chapter 17.43F, Cannabis Manufacturing. The proposed ordinance combines all existing commercial cannabis ordinances into one ordinance that includes new sections, as well as a new Chapter 17.43G. The ordinance is principally the same as it has been since the adoption of Ordinance 315-413 in February of 2019. However, the inclusion of the new Chapter 17.43G specifically details and incorporates the mitigation measures noted in the MMRP, which is the Mitigation Monitoring Reporting Program. It's staff recommendation to waive the reading and enact an ordinance repealing and amending the various sections of Title 17 of the Trinity County Code relating to commercial cannabis and implementing the mitigation measures for the county's commercial cannabis program after taking public comment. And I believe Derek Cole is on the line. He may have a few items to add. Derek, are you there?
Yes, I actually don't have anything to add. I think Director Hunter has accurately stated the action to be taken today, so I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Board, do you have any questions?
No, ma'am.
No. Derek, on number 9, section 9 at the very last, it says this ordinance shall take effect and be in full force and effect 30 days after its passage. What does that do to the UO, if anything? If this is in full effect, what happens to the UO?
Well, the urgency ordinance is currently in effect. The adoption today of this ordinance will not affect the urgency ordinance because the idea of the urgency ordinance is to create time and space to allow staff to transition to this new program. So if the board adopts this action or this ordinance today, the urgency ordinance is still in effect. This does not undo any action taken by the urgency ordinance, and in fact would be in furtherance of the urgency ordinance.
So this doesn't actually take effect then?
This ordinance would not, correct. The urgency ordinance was the vehicle by which licenses from 2020 were extended for those 270 days. This action today will not undo that or affect that. It will simply adopt the new cannabis program on the books.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Supervisor Morris?
My question got answered. I didn't know which one you were referring to, so now
Okay.
yeah, got it.
Okay, so if there's no more questions from the Board of Supervisors, I will open this up to the public and
I'm not seeing any public comment. Oh, there we go. Veronica Kelly Alves.
Good morning, everyone. This is Veronica Kelly Alves, Douglas City, California. I want to commend everybody for all the hard work on this FEIR. I did listen last Monday, but I just wanted to take the opportunity to say I really do wish that opt-out procedures have been put in there and maybe some clearer avenues for the industry for things. But I guess we'll see those as time goes on, but I just wanted to say Happy New Year to everyone. Good work on this. I think we still need to deal with density, cumulative effects, and opt-out areas, but thank you very much. Have a great day.
thank you.
Lisa Wright.
Lisa Wright? Lisa, we can't hear you. Is she unmuted on our side?
Yeah, I went to unmute, I believe.
Yes.
Yes.
Good morning and welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair, Supervisors, Lisa Wright, Lewiston. Thank you for moving this ordinance forward at such a quick pace. However, Bobby mentioned and Mr. Cole commented on the effect of the urgency ordinance. And from what Mr. Cole had said, that the urgency ordinance was really to allow the opportunity for the 2020 renewals to be granted that extension, kind of grandfather, if you would, or not required to do the full CEQA mitigation measures under the urgency ordinance. However, your urgency ordinance is precluding a number of license holders who have valid state licenses from submitting their renewals because of the language that made it effective immediately and allowed no further renewals to be accepted, as well as the policy from 12.8, the memo that was submitted by Director Hunter, making those non-reinstatable or non-renewable. And I don't think that's really the intent of this board, was to disallow people who were impacted equally, if not more, by COVID and the wildfires. And given that there was not a policy regarding expired renewals, and they were allowed to be reinstated even from a year or more ago, I think that is something that needs to be corrected in the urgency ordinance. And then I would like to also hear what's going to happen once the ordinance goes into effect, the new ordinance that you're passing today, regarding those new applications that are sitting there accepted but not processing. Would they be able to address the mitigation measures piece and still be allowed to move forward while staff is focused as well on the renewals, since they pay their application fees and they're sitting in a very precarious position, many having invested hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. So those two issues are certainly weighing heavily on my mind in representing over 100 of the participants in your program, and I would like you to certainly please reconsider the urgency ordinance hard cutoff, as well as accepting those new applications, mitigation measures, once that ordinance goes into effect in 30 days. Thank you for your time. Have a good day.
Thank you, Ms. Rowe.
I'm not seeing anyone else. If there's anyone else who would like to give public comment, now is the time. Please either message me or raise your hand. I think that's it.
Okay, so we're going to close public comment at this time and bring it back to the board.
I move to approve.
I was going to ask if there are any questions you feel you can answer from public comment. I would be interested in hearing some of the answers.
Do you have a specific question?
Yeah, specifically, there's two questions that Ms. Wright brought up. One was the new apps that are being turned in, or if there is a pathway to go forward, if they meet the new measures from the final EIR. Is that something that you guys are considering, or?
Good morning, Margie DeRose, Senior Planner for the Cannabis Division. To answer your question about the new applications, the current urgency ordinance essentially has put those on hold. However, I think immediately following the day that urgency ordinance was adopted on the 10th of December, I posted frequently asked questions that describe what folks that have submitted new applications can be doing, which includes looking at Appendix C from the EIR, which goes through the mitigation measures that will be required for all licensees to comply with. So there's work that can be done now that will help speed the process up when a transition plan is developed and adopted. But essentially, the urgency ordinance does not allow us to process new applications because we are focused on that transition program.
Right, and I think that that clarification is needed to be said. And the second one is regarding the memo that went out on the 8th for the non-renewable license. Apparently, we have a predicament regarding the extension of some of the licenses that will invalidate the state license before the urgency ordinance that Ms. Wright had also brought up?
I wouldn't say invalidate. Essentially, we've done an initial screening of those 185 licenses that could be eligible for extension. We've not gone through all of them. We've done roughly 77 reviews, and only 25 qualified for an extension. Many did not due to non-compliance issues. There were 28 that did not submit renewals, and this is just a snapshot of that 185. So people did not submit renewals this year in 2020, and so those folks did likely operate this year without a county license. And so I'm not sure how to answer your question. I just wanted to provide you some data if that's helpful to you.
Yes, it is. Thank you. Supervisor Morris.
Thank you. Quick question. There seems to be some maybe slight anticipation that they could still do their renewals, the 2020 renewals. But then because our urgency ordinance was immediately put into effect, you guys couldn't even do anything because of the language of the ordinance. So are you getting inquiries about, hey, we still have some 2020s we need to renew? Either they're due now or maybe they're due December 31st, I don't know.
We do have, in the urgency ordinance itself, folks that have licenses that expire on or after the December 9th date can submit a renewal application and fees and be considered for an extension. Are you asking about those that did not, I guess, meet that criteria before?
Yes, I guess, just to make sure I hear you correctly, those who are due past December 8th can still submit their renewals for 2020. Do I have that right?
Yes, if they had a valid license on December 8th, they can.
And then there's there seems to be perhaps some that hadn't submitted renewals prior to December 8th that needed to. And there's two paths that people are trying to figure out.
Yes, and that's probably the thing we're getting the biggest inquiry on is those renewal applications that were not submitted throughout 2020, I would say, which they, by the memo on the 8th, they essentially go inactive and are not eligible to be extended under the urgency ordinance.
Okay. I might have another question, but I'll wait. I think Keith does.
Supervisor Brooks?
So are there applications that for renewals that are sitting there that have been submitted that you haven't processed yet in this group?
Yes, and those are the ones that would qualify for an extension if they have.
They do qualify if they have been submitted but not processed.
If they've been submitted and paid their fees and they have applied for or currently hold a state license and do not have any non-compliance outstanding issues.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'm bringing it back to the board.
So I would move to approve the ordinance that's in front of us, because that was a little separate from this item.
They dovetail, yeah. Sort of, it's all with the urgency ordinance taking precedence over the ordinance that would be coming in 30 days. It's all dovetail.
Well, my understanding was that it was just another vehicle to help them process the license that you owe. And this is...
Before we talk anymore, I'm sorry, Supervisor Morris, you have a motion on the table.
Right.
There needs to be a second.
I will second.
Now we can discuss.
Yeah,
Sorry,
you're right.
out of procedure.
Yep, no,
So,
no worries.
Yeah, that's why I asked Mr. Cole, Mr. Cole, if the 30-day, it actually isn't going into effect because the urgency ordinance is going to be in effect. This will be on the books, but it's not in effect. If you want to clarify that.
Yeah, I didn't catch that.
Yes, Madam Chair, so we have followed the regular ordinance process, actually the zoning ordinance process, and that does require a 30-day waiting period, if you will. So effectively, this ordinance becomes the law 30 days from today if the board approves the ordinance. That's different than the urgency ordinance, which again, the purpose of the urgency ordinance was to deal with that backlog that existed on December 9th, which was the date you adopted that separate ordinance, and to give the holders of the qualifying licenses the extension through today and beyond for those up to those 270 days. So it is, I can see how it might be a little confusing in the abstract because we're dealing with two separate ordinances, but the action today, if the board approves it, will become effective 30 days from now.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification, Derek. Thank you.
Pull the board.
Motion by Supervisor Morris, second by Supervisor Groves. Supervisor Groves, how do you vote?
Aye.
Supervisor Morris?
Yes.
Supervisor Fenley? Supervisor Fenley? How do you vote?
Who did you call?
You, Supervisor Fenley.
Okay, Supervisor Friendly votes aye.
Thank you. Supervisor Brown?
Aye.
Thank you. Supervisor Chapman?
Aye.
Thank you.
We are adjourned. Did I forget something? The way you looked at me.
No, I wanted to ask Richard a question. We can ask him offline here.
Before I close, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're done.
Yeah.
In all the ways it can mean. But I was going to ask if we could contact the supervisor